The wireless technology of the Airpods work off as Bluetooth, right? Which is effectively communicating wirelessly between your phone, sending data to the Airpods. And even if those things are off on their quote unquote airplane mode, by the way, or their mode, they're still connected wirelessly and they're still emitting. So you kind of have you basically have a mini microwave they're putting out in the microwave frequency band in your ear at all times, right next to your brain, basically impacting the function of the mitochondria.
What are EMFs? What are EMR?
We hear that everything is energy and we're experiencing energy all around us. Like when we see visible light, we're seeing light reflected off objects. So the plant looks green because it's reflecting that green light into our eyes and we perceive it. Now, we are meant to be connected with like electromagnetic radiation. It's not like all EMF is bad. There is native EMF. The earth itself is vibrating at a frequency of about 8 hertz, 7.83, and that's called the Schumann resonance. The earth also has a natural magnetic field that humans need to be in contact with. This helps our memory. This helps us feel good. And so I share this as a very high level to say that when we say EMFs are bad, what we're really saying is non-native, high power EMFs can be dangerous for us. And this is a relatively new thing in relation to all of human history and life on this planet. I'll just talk about 5G, for example. So 7.83 hertz is what the Earth naturally vibrates at. That's called the Schumann resonance. That means 7.83 cycles per second. Now, the new rollout of 5G is actually roughly in the frequency band of 26 to 71 gigahertz. So what's a gigahertz? Well, a gigahertz is 1 billion hertz.
Wow.
That means 1 billion cycles in a second, not 7.83,
Wow.
1 billion. So we're doing 71 billion cycles per second in this frequency band. So is that necessarily bad? Well, it turns out it is, but I'm not to say that something that's high frequency is always bad, but it is not something our bodies are naturally used to. How does this start to connect to biology? In the 1970s, the United States Navy, they actually contracted a scientist called Dr. Zori Glaser to basically look at what kind of stuff do we know about non-native EMFs and their effects on humans. And so he came up with the Glaser Report in 1971. And at that time, there was 2,000 scientific references that he was able to gather on the negative health effects of EMFs, all related to alteration of fetal development, alteration of menstrual activity, decreased fertility, sensitivity to light, changes in mood and depression, changes to sleep, increases in certain cancers, structural changes in the brain. Like we've known all this stuff for a very long time. It just hasn't been very mainstream. And that was 1971. What's happened since then? Well, we've put out so many more high-powered electromagnetic fields. I mean, at that time, there weren't even cell phones, right? And now we have cell phones, we have Bluetooth, we have satellites, we have small cell towers like crazy. And this stuff has biological effects.
So with the massive amount of EMFs that are now today in our environment, in your opinion, is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? It sounds like you don't think it's a conspiracy whatsoever.
Effectively, EMFs does impact the electron transport chain inside the mitochondria. I want to really make that clear. That basically means a particle that we understand is carrying electric charge. And the whole process of metabolism, when we eat food, proteins, carbs, and fats, we break that down through metabolism and eventually it gets into the mitochondria where we can produce ATP, which is the energy currency. But we now know that these influence of these non-native high-powered EMF fields disrupt many steps in the electron transport chain, effectively allowing metabolism to back up. So you're surrounded by this stuff, your metabolism, your cellular respiration doesn't work as well. And you end up getting more acidic as a byproduct because metabolic changes are happening and there's just straight up damage. So if you're looking at getting into the root cause of health, you can take all these different kinds of supplements, but you also want to remove a lot of these intoxicating factors. And so EMFs are one of those. It's certainly not conspiracy. Like humans have known that electricity has biological effects, some good. You go to a physical therapy clinic and they put TENS units or different kinds of microcurrents on, and it can actually speed up healing or help the nervous system work regularly. So like electricity has biological effects. And like humans, we have this tendency to just continuously up the ante and do more and more for the purpose of a progression. Like we just have forgot to really check and see about how it's affecting biology and pump the brakes.
Why do you think this is such a taboo subject? Is it strictly because of the money that's been poured into all of this new advanced technology and infrastructure that's being rolled out? Or is there something else going on here?
Yeah, so I think there's a philosophical underpinning for why we've had an understanding of the body that we haven't really understood that we're so electric. Two, I think there's a little bit of cognitive dissonance because we're so deep in this game right now, and we've grown up with these devices that are adding so much value to our lives. And we're seeing that there's some cost, outside of just electromagnetic fields and radiation, addiction to screens, disconnection that comes from technology. But we just have these things that are on us all the time. And we just don't want to really realize that they're causing this amount of problems. We live in a completely electrified world. It's like a fish that's in this soup being like, I'm in toxic water. It's like a tough thing to admit.
When you start to peel back and unwind and understand the potential damage that could be done, it takes a lot of personal responsibility and I think courage to make these changes.
We must look back in history and see the things that we're so confident in, like smoking didn't cause any problems like 50 years ago. People were smoking and it was no big deal. And it took a long time even for us to admit that that was a problem. There's a lot of money. There's a lot of financial interest that's tied up in these things, let alone as we're laying down the new infrastructure for this AI-driven smart appliance, everything's communicating. All of this is now depending on us installing more small cell towers using 5G and other soon to come 6G, which is basically using even higher frequency, shorter millimeter waves that must have smaller relay stations because they get interrupted by natural materials. They're not like those big, long, loopy radio waves that can penetrate things. They're short, high frequency waves that have a lot of interference. We need to install all of these cell stations all over the place. And we're taking it to an unprecedented, never seen before electrification of our environments where there's actually no break, no reprieve. And many people have the intuitive experience when you disconnect away from the city, you go to the lake house, you just feel good. And maybe it's partly because you're getting away from your stressors of your normal routine. But I promise you a big part of it is because you're kind of getting reconnected to an environment with native EMF. It has been very well documented that people go and take walks in the forest, or in Japan, they have the practice called forest bathing. Our parasympathetic nervous system tone goes up, which is good for longevity and feeling great. Sympathetic nervous system tone goes down. On the flip side, one of the main things that we see with EMF exposure is insomnia, anxiety, mood problems, irritability. This is a sympathetic nervous system dominance because, quite frankly, on a cellular level, your body feels stressed by these things and you're bathed in it constantly. So
what do you say to the naysayers to help them really wrap their mind around this, or even maybe break through that cognitive dissonance that you're talking about?
The big narrative right now is that, basically here's it is that the frequencies that we're putting out from our phones and our Wi-Fi routers are in the microwave range. Those are non-ionizing. And the whole talking point right now is that they're non-ionizing radiation, so they're not causing problems. Well, we now know that there's all these non-ionizing damaging effects through voltage-gated calcium channels, disruptions in the mitochondria. So the whole industry talking point that it's non-ionizing for it's safe is just like a straw man argument. It's just not legit. There are over 30,000 published studies right now on the health damaging effects of EMFs. All of the science is there. It's just not becoming public. So I'm just saying, take your time if you're skeptical and read some of these papers.
Can you talk to us specifically about the harm and what's happening with those earpods when they're not connected to a wire and your brain is just receiving those signals right through your brain all day long?
The wireless technology of the AirPods work off as Bluetooth, right? Which is effectively communicating wirelessly between your phone, sending data to the AirPods. And even if those things are off on their quote unquote airplane mode, by the way, or their mode, they're still connected wirelessly and they're still emitting. So you kind of have you basically have a mini microwave they're putting out in the microwave frequency band in your ear at all times, right next to your brain, basically impacting the function of the mitochondria. And there is a distance effect, right? So I don't know if it's affecting the deep, how much it penetrates exactly into the brain tissue, but certainly in your temporal and parietal lobes, right near where your ears are, those tissues are getting irradiated with microwaves. And that's probably going to lead to, what you might experience is a little bit of anxiety. You could experience headaches. You could experience insomnia, but you're definitely to a certain extent damaging the mitochondrial function of those key brain tissues. Man, I mean, I have not used wireless headphones for 20 years for that reason. And I wouldn't personally have a Bluetooth device like that on my head.
Can we kind of dive into best practices for scanning your home environment and cleaning up your home environment first?
I think it's a good idea that you get some kind of measuring device so you can go throughout your home and start to literally see what's kicking off radiation. I want you to go by your Wi-Fi router, turn it on, and then to see what's it like when I'm 1 foot away. What's it like when I'm 10 feet away? What's my bedroom like? Also, I think that your main exposure source is going to be your phone. And it's a very good idea to see how your phone kicks off different amounts of electromagnetic radiation, whether it's on airplane mode or not, whether it's next to you or 5 feet away. And also, I think another place to really measure is your bedroom. You can make sure that your bedroom itself is in a good low EMF environment. If you do that, that could be a third of your life that's better protected. There is a serious proximity effect with these things, particularly with our cell phones. If you're someone has working at an office or a desk, if you can even put your phone, even if it's not on airplane mode, if you put the phone like 5 feet away from you on a table, you can still hear it or whatever, but it's really not next to you, you've probably reduced your exposure by over 50% just there. When your phone is pulling more data, because you're not connected to Wi-Fi, you're doing streaming or stuff like that, or playing videos, it's going to have a higher electromagnetic output. I've gone around and I'm the crazy guy that's literally taken the meter and measured all the small cell towers we see around us and to see the exposure. The new iPhones that are 5G enabled and that are hooked up sometimes kick out like 10 times more than even some of those gigantic multi-feet small cell towers. And let alone if you're sticking this in your pocket all the time, like irradiating your genitals, let alone your whole body.
In your bra,
brutal.
Like sticking it in your yoga pants, guys wearing it
Yes,
in their back pocket.
Totally.
Right next to your genitals. Like, this is crazy.
And we have fertility issues right now. And I'm certainly not saying this is the only reason, but I absolutely know it's a contributing factor, right? We know we have a lot of pesticides, we have environmental chemicals that are hormone disruptors, but we also know this stuff does massively damage the eggs and the sperm. And we're keeping these things by our vital sexual organs, like at all times. Yeah. They call it a laptop. You should not put that thing on your lap. Airplane mode is good, right? Airplane mode cuts down on, I'd say, like about 50% or more of maybe even more than that, a substantial amount, but it doesn't completely cut down all the exposure. Like, you'll still get more than a lot of these studies ever said you should if you have it on airplane mode and it's near you. So I think it's about not like eliminating exposure, but like mitigating and small things that you can do. Here's an example of a silver lined bag that you can put any kind of mobile device in. The phone is in this bag and this thing is sealed. Like, it won't be actually receiving, much. That's kind of the catch-22 of these things, but it also won't transmit. And you could still hear an alarm off of this. What I would say is get your phone out of your bedroom. And if you have a lot of these wireless things in your bedroom, like, don't do that. And then the other important aspect outside of like mitigating your phones is to actually ground and reconnect. Like, it is important for us. The human mechanism is actually designed to be in contact with the earth. One of the main things that we find when the body is earth is, one, we heal faster and get greater recovery times. And what antioxidants do, like C60, is donate electrons. One of the mechanisms for doing that is donating electrons. Well, guess what? This earth is a metal sphere, all the metals in the crust, that gets struck by lightning millions of times throughout the day. And it has a subtle negative electric charge. That's why some people call it vitamin G, is we're meant to kind of get connected with the earth, and we actually are receiving and kind of normalizing our system with some of these electrons.
Is there a phone that you recommend or that you prefer that's giving off less EMFs, or maybe might be a safer option for people who still need to be connected?
One company is Mudita. They have like a low EMF phone. But again, the other thing that you just can do is just don't keep the phone in your pocket. If you can keep your same Samsung or iPhone, when you're not using it, if possible, put it on airplane mode or get one of those Faraday bags. And I would make sure that you use wired headphones. So don't use the Bluetooth ones, wired headphones. If you have the ability to be connected to Wi-Fi versus like roaming LTE kind of things, be connected to Wi-Fi. It's a cleaner signal on that front. If you are working on a computer, get plugged into Ethernet.
Any other food, supplement, healthy lifestyle choices that people should consider to kind of address the damage that's being done on a daily basis to help their body recover, reset?
Anything that protects DNA and optimizes mitochondrial function will be very, very good for you. So again, something like C60, what an amazing, powerful molecule that effectively does both of those things in some way, shape, or form. Methylene blue is a nootropic. It's something that people are now using. It actually serves as an alternative electron carrier in the mitochondria, so that can help the mitochondria work better, right? An anti-inflammatory diet is key. Other things that help stabilize DNA in terms of lifestyle factors are heat shock and cold shock proteins, like stressors. So you can get these from sauna as well as cold tubs. So stuff you can do with temperature exposure stuff is going to help make your body more resilient. Exercise is so good because what exercise does is creates a gentle stress on the mitochondria so that they actually start to work better, and our bodies create more mitochondria and actually get better at handling the reactive oxygen species that get naturally kicked off from exercise. And then I think good sleep and circadian rhythm in a non-EMF environment is just absolutely vital. And finally, I know it took me a while to get to this, is good, high quality, clean water.
Do you have any parting words of wisdom or encouragement for people who might feel overwhelmed by this information?
I think it's the age-old quote that knowledge is power. And I think there is truth in that, right? We must first know what's happening, and then we make the choice. And I think the choice is we must also understand that our bodies, designed in creation with natural law, are meant to be connected to natural sources of EMF. And so, insofar as it's capable, we have the power to make small changes and mitigations with our family and our life that can help keep us healthy. And like, we're all in this together.
Thank you so much, Anthony. Really appreciate speaking with you today. Have a wonderful rest of your day.